As part of Cultural Logic's effort to find effective simplifying models, we first assessed people's default responses to the topic. When you ask Americans about food systems without providing any particular context, here's how they respond.
How would you describe what a food system is?
A food system?
A food system? I need some context. I don't know what you mean by...
What is a food system? You've heard that.
Right.
Use it all, or?
No.
How do you feel about America's food system?
I told you we were ignorant.
How would you define what is a food system?
Well, just what we buy, because we're both retired, so we get our little grocery store down the way or go out to eat in a restaurant, so we're not worried about the food that we have.
But the problem extends beyond people's lack of familiarity with particular terms. When asked more generally about the way food is produced, most people still find it difficult to respond productively.
How do you feel about how America currently produces its food? Do you think about it much, or is it
No, not really. I don't really think about it much. Just whatever. All I know is I eat the food.
Right.
That's it. And I don't really know what they do with it, but just assume that it's all right.
Do you feel like the American food system is sustainable?
Yeah. I mean, you can survive on it.
Well, we seem to get it plenty, and the stores are full.
There's plenty of it. I don't ever go short, so it seems like we're doing a good job.
I'm able to get good food in America. I try not to think about it too much because I want to be able to enjoy what I eat.
Honestly, it's one of those things you just don't think about.
There's enough for everybody to go around and get a piece of the pie. So it's more of a distribution, not quality. Definitely not. The farmers, they're doing their job.
One thing that's always amazed me is how pliable the world really is. So I have no idea whether it's sustainable or not.
The next set of clips shows people responding to the simplifying model. The researcher read a paragraph aloud based on the idea of a runaway system and damage to our foundations, and then asked questions like, what is a food system? What's wrong with our current food system? What's one thing we should do to improve the situation? The video excerpts you'll see next were drawn from various places in the subsequent conversations.
A food system. A food system would go all the way from all the components that you need for production, all the way to getting it to a person. It'd be huge.
Well, it's how it's produced, how it's brought into the stores, from the seed to the grocery store.
Well, basically chemicals, biological engineering, and drift nets are the three things that sort of are altering the way basically the system works. You know, the soils work, the water work, you know, what the ecological systems in the various places you've described, the land and the ocean, obviously are changing, and we don't know if it's for good or bad. In general, we're feeling it's bad.
Well, it's becoming a runaway system where we can't really control the effects of what we're doing, and we're not really aware. I think a lot of people aren't really aware of the effects that our food system and the agriculture of our country is doing right now.
The runaway food system means it just keeps barreling along. I mean, there's no consideration for the consequences. I mean, just like in fishing, just taking all the fish until there's no more fish to be fished.
I just think maybe a runaway food system would be something that just grows so enormously and it's just out of control, and there's no way of really controlling it unless you take drastic measures.
It reminds me of a runaway truck that you can't stop and it just keeps going, and it's kind of out of control. That's what it implies to me.
It's not a natural way of doing things. I don't know. To me, it's unnatural how they do our food processing.
What's wrong with the food system is it doesn't take into account all the considerations, I don't think. I mean, it's just worried about producing the most food for the least amount of money for the greatest profit, rather than worrying about the land or the sea that generates the food and taking account of the whole system.
Early agriculturists, they needed for survival just a way to balance, their crops, and they did crop rotation and everything, and they really were in check with what they were taking out, they kept in so that they could keep their, livelihood alive. I think runaway means that that's not happening now. It's basically just we're forcing a bleaching of the soils and a waste of resources and a contamination of things just to get out the product, so they're not balancing anymore. It's just kind of all focused on the end product and not the continuation and the survival and the health of the system.
Yeah. Any aspect of what a person would want to look at would have to do with how the benefits of production go to one aspect of the producers, and then the costs, the consequences go to nature and the rest of the people in the future.
After hearing the simplifying model, interview subjects are able to take a big picture perspective and to see a number of disparate topics as aspects of a single issue. They are concerned and interested rather than complacent, reasonable and constructive rather than baffled or dismissive. People in this mindset are much more likely to think productively about questions related to food production and distribution.